Hello and welcome to November's installment of Megan's Minute with Allergic Living. Now, normally I sit and we discuss topics together and share advice, but with the holidays right around the corner, I had to do a baking segment. I had to share one of my favorite holiday cookies that works for both November and December. And one reason why I love this cookie is because it's a little bit different. It's not the type that you're usually going to see on a cookie plate. And it's also top 9 free, so you can share it with all your friends. Let's get started. I'm going to be teaching you today how to make my maple cookies with a maple glaze. Maple to me is one of those classic fall flavors. You've got your pumpkin, you've got your apple, and maple is this rich, cozy, sweet flavor you can tuck into when it gets cold outside. So it's great all month of November, and it's also really fun to spice up your cookie plate, give some variety because it's not one that is often seen. We're going to go ahead and get started with our wet ingredients. Now what I mean by that is we're going to cream our butter and our sugars and do anything that's liquid. So I've had softening 1 stick of vegan butter. You can use what brand you like. We typically use the Earth Balance. They do have a soy-free version, so make sure you're using the soy-free version if you need it for that. Also, this recipe can be made by hand, or it can also be made with like just a stand mixer. My mom must have made 1,000 cookies growing up, and she always did it by hand. I'm going to be doing it today in my stand mixer, but use whatever tools you have at home. I promise they'll still taste yummy no matter what. So we're going to go ahead and get that stirring, get it softened up. Make sure that you have a spatula handy so that you can make sure to scrape the sides of the bowl. The next thing we're going to add is brown sugar. I like brown sugar in this recipe more than white sugar because it gives it that richness of flavor. Go ahead and add that in and give it a good stir till it's all incorporated. Next, we're going to add our egg replacer. There's a whole bunch of different egg replacers, and I kind of feel like they each have their own uses and where they work best. For these cookies, I like to use a powdered egg replacer. The brand I'm using today is Energy Egg Replacer. It's my favorite, probably because I'm the most familiar with it, so you can try other egg replacers. I wouldn't recommend a really wet egg replacer like an applesauce or flax egg because I found that cookies can spread too much if you use a really wet one. I find that the powdered kind tend to set a little bit better. So I'm just doing what's on the back of the box for 1 egg replacement and adding it to my mix. Go ahead and incorporate that. Now, the thing that's really going to add the flavor is going to be real maple syrup. A trick that I like to do is take whatever nonstick spray you prefer that's safe for your family and make sure to spray the cup. That way it will slide right out. Now, there's different things about the different grades of maple syrup. I'm not here to break the bank. I want good pure maple flavor, but I also don't want to tell you have to buy the most expensive one. I tend to get the ones that are in a glass bottle where the only ingredient is maple syrup. So we're not talking the cheap stuff you put on like your pancakes in the morning that often has a lot of other ingredients. You want pure, you can decide what grade you would like. And we're going to do 1/3 of a cup. Okay, let's stir it up. Now another thing that's going to help the flavors of this cookie is of course the classic vanilla extract. The better grade you can get with it, you'll get a stronger flavor. So now the last liquid ingredient is what's going to also help. I find in recipes, whether it's lemon or orange or maple, anything that you really want to bring out, you usually want to do an extract with the natural ingredient. By doing both, it's really going to enhance some flavor. So 1 teaspoon of maple extract. Okay, let's move on to our dry ingredients. Now I like to start with the small dry ingredients to make sure that they get blended and end with the flour. So we've got a little bit of salt. When you've got a really sweet cookie like this, you've got to temper it with a little bit of salt, otherwise it's going to be too sweet. Next, you need your rising agent, so we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And lastly, let's do our flour. Now, I have found that my favorite gluten-free baking flour consists of rice flour, potato starch, and tapioca starch. I have a recipe for just my general blend on my blog, But then if you're doing something like that that doesn't have xanthan gum, then you're gonna wanna add about 1/2 teaspoon, 3/4 teaspoon to this recipe as well to make sure that it binds and that it rises, because that xanthan is really important. I am gonna go ahead and use an all-purpose flour. Today, there's lots of great brands out there. Just try and stick with one that has those 3 major components. I've gone ahead and measured out 1/2 the flour for us that I can go ahead and add now. And then I left the rest of the flour because I want to show you how to properly measure gluten-free flour. It makes such a difference. If you get a compact flour in there, you're actually going to have more than what the recipe calls for. It's going to dry out your baked goods. If you get too little, it's going to be too gummy. So let's look how to do proper gluten-free flour measuring. You'll notice that I keep my gluten-free flour in this container, whether I've made a homemade batch or I bought something from the store. I like to bring it home, put it in my glass container with a sealable lid to try and keep it as fresh as long as possible. Now you're going to take your measuring cup and you're going to take a spoon and you're going to just lift it with the spoon and gently fill it in the cup. You're not going to pack it down and you're definitely not going to scoop the measuring cup. And you just keep going gently so it fills it, falls in naturally. And I like to make sure it even kind of domes above. Make sure it's really covered. Then you're going to take the back of the spoon or knife and you're going to just cut all the excess off so that it's a nice smooth amount on top. And there you have it, 1 cup of gluten-free flour. You can pour right into your cookie mix. You'll start to see the dough forming together, getting thicker. And I've got my cookie sheet ready to go. I like to use a silicone mat, not only because it helps the cookies not stick, but because it actually helps them not overspread. And then my favorite trick to making cookies look like they're blog ready and they're nice and uniform is using a cookie scoop. I've had this cookie scoop for probably 6 years. I use the medium size and it just gets them looking oh so perfect. So you take it, you scoop it. The way I like to spread it out on my cookie sheet is I like to do 3 cookies and then 2 cookies, 3 cookies and 2 cookies, with them going in between each other so that way they have a little bit of room to grow. You don't want to overcrowd the pan. We're going to go ahead and put this in our oven at the 350 degrees preheated for 9 to 11 minutes. Now, I'm not like the Great British Baking Show where they always talk about they want a nice snap in their cookie. I like a nice soft cookie. So everyone's ovens tend to cook a little bit different. So watch them. A good indicator is your nose when you can start to smell them. And when they just start to look set, I actually like to pull them just a little bit before because they'll finish cooking on the tray. While our cookies are in the oven, it's a perfect time to make the glaze that's going to go on top because yes, not only are the cookies delicious, but we're going to take it over the top by making a maple icing that we're going to drizzle on top. It's going to be so good. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to that butter we had before. Again, use whatever dairy-free brand you prefer, and we're going to just use 1 tablespoon of it. Then we're going to take some more maple extract, which is going to give it that maple in the cookie and maple in the icing extravagance. We're going to pour that in there. Now, like I mentioned before, you need just a touch of salt to make sure that the sweetness is not overbearing. So we're going to just like to take my 2 fingers and just add a little pinch. And then last but not least, to sweeten it and also help thicken it, we're going to do 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to go put this on my stovetop and stir it together till it's all melted and combined. Once melted, the glaze will be nice and smooth, and you want it runny so that way we can drizzle it over the cookies. Hey, and here they are. Don't they look great? I love it. They've got that golden color from the maple syrup. It literally smells like a maple donut in here. So wonderful. Now, one trick that I always do with my cookies, because I like them soft set, I just wait till the edges start to look done, but you can see they're still soft in the middle, and it's not that I like a soft cookie, but I don't want a doughy cookie. So I actually leave it on the hot tray to set for another 5 minutes before I move it to a cookie sheet. Okay, the cookies have finished setting on the tray for 5 minutes. So now is the time to gently take them off the tray and move them to a cooling rack. Now you'll notice I have paper towels underneath the cooling rack because I'm going to go ahead and do the drizzle while they're on the cooling rack. And that way the paper towel is there to catch the excess so that way you don't have a sticky mess underneath. I do like to wait to do the drizzle until these are a bit more cool. You don't want the cookie still being hot so the drizzle runs off and doesn't adhere. So once these are on the tray, we'll give it just a few more minutes. Good things come to those who wait. Okay, The cookies are cooled. If your glaze has set up a little bit, you can just warm it back up on the oven. You want it to be a drippable consistency. And then I don't think there's really a right or wrong way. You just kind of wiggle your spoon back and forth, dip it back in if you need a little bit more. I like kind of just a busy, homemade looking pattern. I'm not trying to impress anyone because these cookies go so fast. No one looks at them for very long. Oh, you guys, this is gonna be so good. And if drizzling's not your thing, there's nothing wrong with just spreading it across the top as a glaze. I hope you guys love these as much as me and my family do. One thing that I've really missed since my son has had food allergies has been maple glazed donuts. That was like my all-time favorite, a maple bar, and these taste just like one, but without having to wait for the dough to rise and deep frying. Happy holidays, you guys, from my family to yours. We'll catch you next month on Megan's Minute with Allergic Living.